Hello and welcome back to Here We Go Cattywampling. This is Tabitha and welcome back to part 2. In this video we're going to continue preserving the goods that we bought at the wholesale produce sale last week. First up is tomatoes. And the first thing we made was tomato sauce. So we just started by coring each tomato and then slicing it. I put everything in my turkey roaster. Put in onion and garlic and salt, pepper, Italian seasoning, olive oil, and it's not shown but I did add basil as well. After a few hours it was done and I was able to blend it with my immersion blender. And now I'm just pouring it back into this pot so I can put it on the stove to cook down a little further. Here's the nice hot jars. And I'm adding half a teaspoon of citric acid to these jars. I didn't have any lemon juice. And I needed an acid of some kind so this could go in the water bath canner. Now we're just wiping the rims. Putting on the lids and the rings. And into the canner. The sauce ended up having a lot of pulp in it. I didn't think the kids would like it, so I threw it in the Vitamix, and that day we had some pasta for lunch. After that, it was time for some salsa. So I have jalapeno, cilantro, I had some onion and other peppers in the fridge. So we're just gonna chop it all up and put it in the food processor. So 4 of these jalapenos I kept with the seeds, and I took the seeds out of 4 of them. And I was just chopping it up. Put that in the food processor with some onion. I had to do this in batches because my food processor isn't very big. So then I have the rest of the onion, and then I was going to throw in the cilantro to chop that up as well, and then just pouring that mixture back into the big bowl, combining that all. And then I had the tomatoes that had been boiling in some water for a little while so it would make it easy to take the skins off. And I'm just putting them into the food processor as well. And just going to mix it all up. And for spices on here, I added some garlic, some salt, lemon juice, chili powder, and black pepper. Just filling the jars. Wiping the rims. Putting on the lids. and the rings. and they went into the water bath canner. Then I decided to make some chocolate cherry preserve from the Pomona's Pectin book. So we've got cherries and cocoa powder on the stove. Once everything was added and cooked down a little bit, we filled the jars. This was a messy project. Put on the lids and the rings. And into the canner they went. These were in the water bath canner. I was a little concerned because this recipe called for chili powder, or not chili powder, cayenne pepper. And I wasn't sure how well that would be, so after dinner one night we threw some ice cream into the Ninja Creamy and topped it with some of this cherry preserve. And it must have only been a little bit of chili or cayenne pepper because, as you can see, Sammy liked it. The rest of the cherries I just froze on sheet pans and put them in a freezer bag. Then with all of these pits, I'm going to make some cherry jelly. Again, I'm using a recipe from the Pomona's Pectin cookbook. But the first thing I had to do was take all of these pits, add some water, and boil it down for about an hour. And then I was able to strain out all of the pits so that we could have the juice for the jelly. I ended up with about 2.5 quarts of juice. Now I'm just putting in the calcium water and lemon juice. And of course I did add stevia and the pectin, although I must not have recorded it, but here we are filling the jars. And this little one that didn't fill all the way ended up just going into the fridge. But the others, I wiped the rims, put on the lids, added the rings, and they went into the water bath canner. And this is what it looked like when they came out. The next thing to do was I had to take care of these red onions. I decided I wanted to make pickled onions. So I just sliced the onions thinly. And then I had to add some salt, and that had to sit for 30 minutes. And then I was making the brine with some stevia, salt, and some vinegar. And then just filling the jars with the onions after they had set with the salt for half an hour. And then pouring the brine over the top. Here I am debubbling the jars. This is important to remove any of the air bubbles. And then I'm gonna just top them back off with more of the brine so that there's a 1-inch headspace. So the liquid essentially is filled to the rim, the first little rim on the jar there. And then wiping the rims. Adding the lids and the rings. And we ended up with quite a few jars of pickled onions. The next thing to preserve was broccoli, so we chopped it all up. And then you have to blanch broccoli before you can freeze it. So once the water was boiling, I added the broccoli. Once the water comes back up to a boil, then I set the timer for 2 to 3 minutes. And after that, I put it in some cold ice water. And after a couple of minutes of that, I strained it. And now I have these sheet pans with parchment paper and towels, and I'm just pouring the broccoli in a single layer on there. And after a little while and the broccoli was more dry, then we just put the broccoli on the sheet pans with the parchment paper and take the towels out. Then we're able to just freeze it. We ended up buying a vacuum sealer, and this broccoli was the first thing that we tried out in it. So we had 4 bags of broccoli. The next thing was this case of Brussels sprouts. So I just trimmed them all and sorted them by size, and I blanched them again for just a few minutes, put them on these pans with the towels, froze them, and then vacuum sealed those as well. I had about 5 pounds of onions left over, and I had some peppers from a different sale. So I decided to just make some onions and peppers and can them up. So I just blanched the sliced onions and peppers for a couple of minutes, put them in some hot jars. I ended up needing some more jars. And then I'm just using the same liquid that I boiled the onions and peppers in. I'm pouring that same water back into the jars. Debubbling them. And I topped them off, and they were in the pressure canner for about 40 minutes. And this is what they look like when they were done. Okay, so that was everything we preserved with all that food. It ended up costing $280, and I compared that to the prices at Walmart and Meijer for similar products. and the same amount of food would have cost about $676 at Walmart or Meijer. So we ended up saving $396 buying that wholesale. It ended up being quite a bit of work to preserve all that food, but it's far healthier. We know what's in it. And it was good for the kids too, to see what goes into preparing all of that food. So during this particular week, we got a good bit of snow, and the kids enjoyed playing in it. That's going to complete this video. Stay tuned, and we'll be back next week with another video where we'll show you what a typical week looks like when we're not preserving a ton of food. Thanks, guys. Bye.